Hi, today we're going to talk about how to get the perfect Jamberry application. So this is not for newbies, this is for people that have tried Jamberry, they know they love them, and they want to figure out the tips and tricks to get the absolute perfect Jamberry application. So when I very first tried Jamberry, my first application at a party, I put it on, I knew I absolutely loved it right away. But I did have a couple bumps, and I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it's because you're new and there's a learning curve. And so this video is going to be a little bit longer than normal. I'm not going to show you how to apply them. I'm going to show you tips and tricks of how to get the perfect application once we've got them down and stuff. So number one, my biggest problem at first is people say push back your cuticles. Well, what I was doing was I was taking the little rubber thing, I was using the alcohol on it, push, 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 and I thought I was done. Well, let me show you the difference in these fingers. So these two fingers, this was one that I washed, I have alcoholed, and it should be all nice and clean, but if you look up here, there's like all this crusty crust and all this dry stuff on my fingernail. Well, that is not going to allow, the Jamberry is going to lay on top of that, and then as this crusty stuff that isn't actually part of my fingernail starts to lift, well, it's going to cause a bubble in your wrap, and your wrap is going to lift. So the solution to that is this cuticle remover pin. My upline sent it to me, and because she sent it to me, I decided to go ahead and try it. And so what it is it's this pin that you just click the base here, and then this gel comes out. And you wipe this gel all along the base of your cuticle, and then you just let it sit for a minute or so. And as it sits, it's going to soften up all that crusty crust, and you're going to be able to just wipe it off and slough it off, and all of a sudden, I did it actually on this nail already, and you can see how this one's super nice and clean. And I guess the best analogy that I can use is kind of like brushing your teeth. Your teeth are clean, but then all of a sudden you floss and you realize, oh my word, there's all these goobers in my mouth that I didn't know existed. So the cuticle remover is going to basically floss or get all that gunk out from all the way around there. So now at this point, we need to, after it's been on for 2 minutes and we have scrushed back all that junk, push back our cuticles really good, we're going to go wash our hands really good, and we're going to have the perfect base to put down our nail. Okay, so the next tip that I have is when we, so this nail I just applied. Also, the next tip is if you find that you have bubbling, it's most likely because you've used a blow dryer. A blow dryer, yes, you can put them on, but it's hard to figure out when that wrap is hot enough. When you use the mini heater, it automatically is going to curl once it's hot enough. The problem with the blow dryer is it's putting out so much air that it's already curling, flopping that little wrap all over the place. So you want to make sure that if you do have some bubbles, you want to make sure that you get that wrap super high. It needs to almost melt, if not shrink wrap to your finger. If you feel like it's still kind of like sticking up, it's not hot enough. You haven't tugged on it enough. You haven't flattened it out and pushed it down enough. So that brings up another thing. If you get your whole application done and you feel like you still have some bubbles, you can take a tool like this. If you don't have a tool like this, take a metal pair of scissors. Take something metal. Take your tweezers, and you're going to heat it up on your heater like this. And this is called a spoon cuticle pusher, and I just got this at Ulta. And once this is hot and your fingernail is hot, you can then almost flat iron those bubbles out, and it just works amazing. And you're getting heat from both the top and the bottom, and so you're just going to heat that out. And also, if you wake up the next morning, this is also great if you wake up the next morning. If you don't have a heater, that's fine. Put it in front of the blow dryer. Put it on top of the toaster. Just be careful, touch it, make sure you're not going to super burn yourself, and then flat iron that out. The next thing is so our normal Jamberry wrap, we're going to put it on, and then when it gets to this point where we've heated it 2 to 3 times, let it cool all the way. And that way, when we're filing it off at a 90-degree angle, it's not still pliable, and it's not going to leave all these little funky little hairs. It's going to be more stiff. And so you're going to get a nice, clean edge. Okay, so there's that. The next thing is if you can see, I'm going to put this down here again. You probably can't see, but on my fingernail, with that rough edge here, it left it a little tiny bit rough. And I was finding my biggest issue is I was getting wearing on the tips of my finger. And I was getting frustrated because I almost felt like they were separating and getting like frayed. I was getting frayed tips. And so Amanda, my upline, told me about this glass file. I got it at Ulta. And the first time she showed me how to use it, I thought it seemed like we weren't doing anything. It seemed pointless. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the glass file at more of a, when we use the normal file, we're going 90 degrees straight up and down. And with this one, we're going to do more curved. And what we're doing is we're filing off all those little teeny fuzzies that might be there. And this is such a fine grit. You don't really feel like you're doing anything, but what it's doing is it's smoothing everything out, and it's also exposing teeny tiny bit of your fingernail right here, which then allows you, as you're scratching at stuff, you now are using your finger, not the wrap. And so, I don't know, it just makes like the world of difference to be able to use this. So invest in a glass file if you find that you're getting wearing on the tips and if you find that they're fraying. And last but not least for that is called the baggie method. So we have now used the glass file and we're going to put our finger in a Ziploc bag. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to push down on that bag as far as we can and then kind of twist it. And we're putting all this pressure on the tip, and then we're going to heat it up. And the bag is now putting pressure on that end, and so it's almost like flat ironing that end to our finger. And it gets hot pretty quick, and they say that the plastic distributes the heat in an even manner. I don't know. I'm not scientific or anything like that. I just know. And so then I'm going to rub, and then I'm done. And by following those 3 steps, the cuticle remover, making sure I get it hot enough, using the glass file, and using the baggie method, I've had finally the perfect application that I'm totally happy with, and I hope that those tips help you. And as I learn more tips, I'm going to share those too. Like I said, I just started Jamberry 3 months ago. Knew I loved it right away, but it's kind of a learning curve, and I'm only going to get better as I go. So I hope you enjoy them. Thanks.